In the distant future, humanity had reached a pinnacle of technological advancement. Earth, once divided by conflict and strife, had unified under a single banner of progress. Cities gleamed with advanced architecture, transportation was instant, and communication transcended the boundaries of space. Humans had mastered energy, harnessed the power of stars, and their knowledge had surpassed anything any species could imagine. Peace reigned on Earth, yet this peace was not one of complacency. Earth's defenses were ever vigilant, a silent sentinel in the cosmos, ready to respond to any threat, however unlikely. One day, without warning, Earth's sophisticated radar systems detected a massive fleet approaching from deep space. The fleet was unlike anything humans had encountered before, vast in number and ominous in formation. The ships appeared on every screen, dark silhouettes against the backdrop of the stars, slowly advancing toward Earth. There was an immediate sense of curiosity among the defense forces. This was not a routine encounter with a trading ship or a diplomatic envoy, this was something else, something bigger. But as data began to pour in, a strange detail emerged. Despite its size, the fleet's technology seemed old, outdated. The ships, though grand in scale, resembled the relics found in museums dedicated to humanity's own early spacefaring days. The propulsion systems, weaponry, and even the structural design were all things humanity had moved beyond centuries ago. The sight was both impressive and baffling. It was as if a medieval army had suddenly appeared on a modern battlefield, armed with swords and shields, facing down tanks and drones. Earth's defense leaders exchanged puzzled looks. What was this fleet? Who had sent it? And more importantly, why? The first communication from the fleet came not long after. A booming voice echoed through every channel, speaking in a language that was quickly deciphered by Earth's AI translators. The message was one of dominance and demand. The voice identified itself as the Supreme Commander of the Galactic Empire, a vast dominion that spanned countless star systems. Earth was ordered to surrender immediately, to offer tribute and pledge allegiance to the Empire, or face total annihilation. The transmission ended with an image of the fleet's weapons primed, as if to emphasize the futility of resistance. In the command center on Earth, there was a moment of stunned silence. Then, slowly, bemused smiles began to spread across the faces of the human leaders. They had faced threats before, but this was something new, something so absurd it was almost endearing. The grandiosity of the Empire's demands, coupled with their outdated technology, was nothing short of comical. A quick decision was made. Instead of responding with the usual diplomatic formality, the leaders chose a different approach. They sent back a message, not of fear or submission, but of amusement. The response was light-hearted, filled with humor and gentle mockery. They thanked the Empire for their generous offer and suggested that perhaps they should update their systems before making such grand threats. The message was sent with a tone that was unmistakably playful, almost as if they were humoring a child who had threatened to take over the world with a wooden sword. Back on the Empire's flagship, the Supreme Commander and his council received the response. They listened, their stern faces unchanging, as the human laughter echoed through their command deck. To them, this was not a sign of mockery, but of fear. They interpreted the laughter as the desperate attempt of a primitive species trying to mask their terror. The Supreme Commander, confident in the superiority of his fleet, issued orders to prepare for an immediate invasion. They would show these humans the true might of the Galactic Empire. Meanwhile, on Earth, the human fleet was mobilized, not out of fear, but out of curiosity. Pilots and engineers boarded their ships with a sense of anticipation, eager to see what these invaders would do next. There was no real concern, only a readiness to observe, analyze, and if necessary, engage. The mood among the fleet was light, almost casual. After all, how could they take this threat seriously when it seemed so woefully out of date? As the human ships began to move out to meet the approaching fleet, there was a sense of collective amusement. What kind of enemy had the galaxy sent them? This galactic empire, with all its bravado, seemed more like a relic from humanity's own past than a real threat. But there was also a sense of duty. They would investigate, they would defend Earth if needed, but most of all, they would see just how far the charade would go. The human ships moved out, forming a cautious yet confident vanguard. As they approached the looming fleet of the Galactic Empire, every sensor was tuned to its highest sensitivity, every system on alert. Despite the humor that had colored their initial response, the humans knew better than to underestimate a potential threat. They scanned the Empire's ships meticulously, gathering data on their capabilities and weaponry. The Empire's fleet, now fully within range, responded as expected by attempting to display its dominance. With a calculated precision that likely impressed their own ranks, the Empire unleashed a barrage of energy weapons. Brilliant beams of light and volleys of missiles hurtled towards the human ships, each strike intended to intimidate and overwhelm. To the Empire's commanders, it was a display of sheer power, designed to shock the enemy into submission. But as the weapons impacted, the human shields held firm. The advanced energy fields absorbed and dispersed the attacks effortlessly, barely registering the assault on the human ships. Engineers and scientists immediately began to dissect the incoming data. The analysis was swift, and the results were almost laughable. The weapons the Empire was using, while flashy and powerful by their standards, were based on principles that humanity had long since surpassed. The energy beams, though visually impressive, lacked the intensity to penetrate modern shields. The missiles, which the Empire had likely designed with great care, were easy to track and even easier to neutralize with countermeasures. As the data poured in, the mood among the human crew shifted from focused determination to incredulous amusement. The more they learned about the Empire's technology, the more they realized just how outmatched the invaders were. Engineers shared findings with pilots, who couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. The Galactic Empire, with all its bluster and bravado, was wielding tools that humanity had relegated to the history book centuries ago. With the realization came a shift in strategy. The human pilots, now fully aware of their technological superiority, decided to play along. They initiated mock engagements, feigning vulnerability to see how the Empire would react. The human ships danced around the Empire's fleet, executing complex maneuvers that left the invaders bewildered. They allowed the Empire to fire at them, only to evade or deflect the attacks with ease. Like a cat toying with a mouse, the Empire's ships attempted to counter these moves, but their responses were sluggish, their tactics outdated. Every attempt they made was met with a swift, almost playful rebuttal from the humans. The pilots exchanged witty banter over the comms, laughing as they performed barrel rolls and loop-the-loops that left the Empire's targeting system scrambling. It wasn't just a battle anymore, it was a game, and the humans were clearly having fun with it. As the engagement continued, the human commanders made a decision. Recognizing the comedic potential of the situation, they authorized a live broadcast of their pilots' communications directly to the Galactic Empire's flagship. The broadcasts were filled with laughter, light-hearted jests, and playful taunts. Pilots made bets on who could dodge the most shots or execute the most ridiculous maneuvers. One even jokingly offered to come aboard the Empire's ship to give a lesson on modern warfare tactics. Back on the Empire's command deck, the reaction was one of utter confusion and growing frustration. The Supreme Commander and his officers listened in disbelief as the humans not only withstood their best efforts but mocked them openly. They couldn't understand why the humans weren't taking the battle seriously, or why their supposedly fearsome fleet was being treated like a joke. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. They were the Galactic Empire, the mightiest force in the galaxy, and yet here they were, being laughed at by a species they had deemed primitive. The more they listened, the more their frustration grew. They doubled down on their efforts, pushing their ships to their limits, but it was all in vain. The humans were simply too far ahead, too advanced, and far too amused by the whole affair to be threatened. In the end, the Empire's leaders found themselves grappling with an unfamiliar and uncomfortable reality. They were completely outmatched, not just in terms of firepower, but in understanding the nature of their opponent. The humans weren't just technologically superior, they were also unflinchingly confident, wielding their humor as effectively as any weapon, leaving the once feared Galactic Empire bewildered and powerless in the face of their own obsolescence. The Galactic Empire, now fully aware that their initial strike had failed spectacularly, decided that the situation called for more drastic measures. Their commanders, humiliated by the humans' nonchalant dismissal of their might, believed they had no choice but to escalate the conflict. In a move born of both desperation and arrogance, the Empire deployed what they considered their ultimate weapon, a massive, imposing device that they believed would finally bring the humans to their knees. This weapon, which the Empire had developed over years of secretive research, was the culmination of their technological prowess. They had designed it to be a planet-destroying force, something that would inspire fear across the galaxy and ensure the submission of any who dared oppose them. As the colossal weapon powered up, the Empire's commanders watched with anticipation, convinced that this would be the turning point in their favor. However, as soon as the humans detected the weapon's activation, their response was immediate and calculated. They observed the energy build-up, analyzed the weapon's design, and quickly deduced its intended purpose. To the human scientists and military strategists, the weapon was a fascinating relic, an artifact of a bygone era, impressive in its ambition but deeply flawed in its execution. Without breaking a sweat, the human fleet initiated a countermeasure that neutralized the Empire's weapon before it could even fire. The process was almost anticlimactic. A simple disruption of the weapon's energy matrix caused it to shut down, rendering it completely inert. The Empire's most feared creation, the pinnacle of their technological advancements, was effectively disarmed with minimal effort. The human pilots, who had been eagerly awaiting this supposed superweapon, couldn't help but laugh at the outcome. One pilot quipped that they had seen better light shows at their local planetarium. The broadcast of the human fleet's reactions, still being transmitted directly to the Empire's flagship, now captured a new wave of laughter, this time tinged with a sense of finality. The game was over. The Galactic Empire, despite all its posturing, had nothing left to threaten humanity with. Realizing the hopelessness of their situation, the Supreme Commander of the Galactic Empire faced a difficult decision. The humiliation was complete. They had underestimated the humans at every turn, relying on their outdated technology and inflated sense of superiority. Now, with their ultimate weapon neutralized and their fleet effectively toyed with, there was no option left but to retreat. The Supreme Commander ordered a full withdrawal, a command that was met with stunned silence among the Empire's ranks. The fleet, once so full of bravado, now limped away from Earth, their confidence shattered. The humans, ever gracious in victory, didn't pursue. They had no desire to crush the Empire or exact vengeance. The encounter had been more a lesson than a battle, a lesson in the dangers of hubris and the importance of understanding one's own limitations. As the Galactic Empire retreated, the humans sent one final message. It was a simple, good-natured farewell, with a suggestion to the Empire. Perhaps it was time to embrace progress and learn from others, rather than relying on outdated notions of power and conquest. The message ended with a promise of peaceful relations if the Empire ever chose to seek them out. Back on Earth, the story of the Great Galactic Invasion quickly became a favorite topic of conversation. It was a tale of humanity's resilience, ingenuity, and most of all, their ability to find humor even in the most unexpected circumstances. The Galactic Empire, meanwhile, returned to their distant corner of the galaxy, their confidence bruised but with much to ponder. The encounter with humanity had shown them that the universe was far more complex and advanced than they had ever imagined.